You're 25 years old, stuck in a beige cubicle that reeks of stale coffee, staring at a spreadsheet that belongs to a project you'll never get credit for. Your manager brushes past you without a glance. You could disappear from that office and it would take people days to notice. Then your phone lights up, not spam, not a promotional email. A message you spent the last 12 months quietly hopping for when you'd almost stopped believing would actually arrive. An entity you set up quietly, half as an experiment, just finished its first real deal. A small logistics software business nobody wanted picked up for $40,000. You read the numbers twice because they don't add up the way you expect. It's already worth 3 times what you paid. A chill runs through you and it has nothing to do with the dollar figure. It's the fact that something you built in the dark has taken on a life of its own, and it's moving whether you're paying attention or not. You shut your laptop and act like nothing just happened. A coworker asks if everything's all right. You tell her you're fine. You are not fine. You're standing right at the edge of something massive and every single person around you is completely unaware. That night, curtains drawn, you pull up the real folder. Not the one tied to your job title, the plain-looking one that actually contains almost a year of obsessive, hidden planning. A registered company in one state, a parent entity in another, accounts that don't carry your name, and a strategy that began as a side experiment and turned into something with real teeth. So how does a 25-year-old stuck answering to a middle manager end up building this? It began with $600, a cheap domain and a filing fee for a registered agent. You spotted a struggling online store for sale on a forum, run by someone who'd clearly burned out. You patched up its broken checkout process in a weekend. You mentioned it to no one. No posts, no announcements, just 4 quiet months of letting it run. It brought in $11,000 before you flipped it for $31,000 to a buyer who never once learned who you actually were. That's the week the first rule got written down. Stay invisible. The second people learn what you're doing, they start asking questions, and every question is a crack someone can widen. You don't touch a dollar of that $31,000 for yourself. Half funds a second purchase, a directory website with steady traffic and an owner who stopped paying attention to it. The rest goes toward legal setup because you already grasp something most people your age haven't figured out yet. The structure protects you more than the business itself does, so you build a parent company. From here on, every purchase belongs to it, never to you personally. You've made yourself a shadow standing behind another shadow. 3 months in, that directory site triples its ad income after you rebuild the backend yourself. Working past midnight on weeknights while still clocking in at 9 the next morning. Still sitting through meetings about goals that feel like they belong to somebody else entirely. You're living in 2 separate realities. In one, you're an underpaid employee. In the other, you're quietly assembling a collection of companies nobody's ever heard of. Which one do you think is actually you? 7 months in, your holding company controls 4 small businesses worth roughly $210,000 combined. Your parents don't know, your girlfriend doesn't know. Especially not her. The one time the truth almost slipped out, some instinct told you to stop talking right there and you did. The rules keep piling up as fast as the revenue does. Never own more than 2 companies in the same industry, so no single collapse takes down the whole thing. Never meet a seller face-to-face if there's any way around it, because faces stick in people's memory and memory turns into conversation. Never celebrate, not even alone, not even in your own head, because pride is the first crack in anything built on silence. You trade sleep for reading contract law. You learn exactly what an indemnification clause shields you from. You learn how a badly written earnout can quietly ruin the person selling to you, and you make certain yours are never structured that way. You learn the real difference between an asset sale and a stock sale, and which one keeps your name further removed from the paper trail. Then the first genuine threat to everything you've built shows up, and it's from a direction you never expected. The man who sold you that logistics company, the same deal from the very beginning of this story, the one that tripled in value almost instantly, decides he wants more money now that the deal is done. He claims you weren't honest about the terms. He hasn't filed anything yet. He's making phone calls to acquaintances, to a small local business publication. Your name is nowhere in the public paperwork, but your registered agent's name is, and that's a loose thread. Loose threads get pulled. That's the first morning your stomach genuinely drops. Not because the business is at risk. Because you are. Everything you've spent nearly a year hiding suddenly feels one conversation away from unraveling completely. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The entity meant to shield you has turned into exactly the loose end someone could pull, and you know it needs handling before it goes any further. And you do something you swore you'd never do. You agree to meet him face to face in a parking garage that smells like motor oil and concrete, 7 in the morning before your shift even starts. You bring paperwork, timestamps, message threads, every piece of proof that the deal was handled fairly from day one. Outwardly, you're composed. Inside, your pulse is pounding like it's trying to break free. He listens, he falls quiet. He accepts a much smaller payout just to walk away, and that's exactly what he does. You drive to work shaking afterward, but it's not fear anymore. It's something closer to adrenaline. You just defended something you built from nothing, armed with nothing but documentation and nerve. It's the first moment you truly understand that money was never the real risk. Getting exposed was. 10 months into all this, your holding company crosses 7 figures on paper. You're still in the same apartment. You're still driving the same car with a dashboard light you've ignored for a year straight. Because the third rule, scrawled in permanent marker inside your closet door where nobody will ever see it, reads, never let your lifestyle become proof of what you've built. You leave your day job around month 11, no big announcement. Just a routine 2-week notice and a vague story about wanting to freelance. Your manager tells you good luck. You almost laugh at how effortless the cover story turns out to be. No longer tied to a desk, you move faster. You pick up a small invoicing tool built for freelancers and contractors, paying just over $100,000, most of it funded by the earlier businesses. You handle the entire negotiation through encrypted messages with a broker who has never once seen your face. Within 4 months, you've doubled its recurring revenue simply by fixing an onboarding process every previous owner was too lazy to touch. Somewhere around here, something inside you starts to change, something you don't admit out loud, not even privately. In the beginning, you were driven by anger, angry at feeling invisible, at watching other people get praised for less effort than you gave away for free. Now you keep going because stopping feels impossible. You're up at 5 every morning, not out of obligation, but because your own mind won't let you rest anymore. You start pulling away from the people closest to you. Your girlfriend asks why you seem so distant lately. You tell her work has been a lot. It's not untrue. It's just a small truth covering a much bigger one. You start noticing how the cost of hiding this compounds like the money does. Every dinner spent lying by omission. Every family gathering where someone asks if you're doing all right financially, and you shrug it off like you're barely scraping by, while your holding company is quietly closing a deal worth more than your parents' entire house. The weight of the secret grows heavier every month. But you keep carrying it because the secrecy is what's protecting everything. By month 14, you're sitting just under $2 million in combined value across 6 businesses. You bring on your first hire, a remote assistant with no idea what she's actually part of. She believes she's supporting a small consulting operation. You tell yourself this shields her too. Some part of you almost believes that. Then a much larger, better capitalized holding company takes notice of one of your businesses performing unusually well in a niche market. They send an unprompted buyout offer for the logistics company alone, the exact one that nearly exposed you a year prior. You sit on the offer for 6 days. Accepting means a massive life-altering payout. It also means legal teams combing through your ownership structure, precisely the kind of scrutiny you've spent over a year dodging. What would you do starring at an offer like that instead of selling? You counter. You propose a minority licensing arrangement, letting them use your technology under a separate brand for a fraction of the buyout number up front plus ongoing royalties. It keeps you hidden. It keeps you in charge. They accept reluctantly, never realizing the person negotiating through a middleman hasn't even turned 27 and has never appeared on a single company website. Something colder begins to take shape in you around this point, something you don't say aloud even in private for a long time. A quiet disdain for people still exchanging their limited time on earth for someone else's paycheck. You notice yourself judging a friend for venting about a difficult boss, and you hate that reflex in yourself, because a year earlier you were exactly that person. Power doesn't just hand you leverage, it reshapes what feels normal to you. By month 18, your combined valuation passes $9 million. You quietly purchase your first personal asset, a modest 3-bedroom home paid for in a way that doesn't trace cleanly back to any single deal. You still drive the same car. You still cycle through the same 3 sweaters. The paranoia doesn't ease as the number climbs. It sharpens because now there's genuinely more to lose. Around month 22, someone online who investigates anonymous holding companies as a side hobby starts publicly questioning the entity that licensed technology to that larger competitor. Your name isn't mentioned. Not yet. But your registered agent's name is, and people in the comments are starting to connect dots that were never supposed to connect. This time your pulse doesn't spike and settle back down. It stays elevated for days straight. Sleep becomes rare. You seriously weigh dissolving the entire structure and rebuilding from scratch on cleaner paperwork. You pay a lawyer through indirect transfers, someone recommended by a contact who owed you a favor from an earlier deal. He tells you the exposure is minimal but not zero. That phrase follows you into the shower every single morning for a week, so you restructure. $80,000 in legal fees goes toward building a cleaner layer between you and every asset, a new umbrella entity filed somewhere no blogger would ever think to check, managed by an agent who has never met you and never will. The post about your anonymous empire runs anyway. It gets 4,000 views. Nobody in your actual life ever comes across it. You finally exhale after 11 straight days of holding your breath. But how long can staying hidden actually work once people start digging? By month 28, you're sitting at nearly $500 million in combined enterprise value, spread across 19 companies. Software products, logistics platforms, small e-commerce brands, even a small stake in a regional bank you picked up almost as an experiment in influence rather than profit. You've met maybe 6 of your business partners face-to-face total. Your name shows up on 0 public company filings a casual search would turn up. Your family still believes you do consulting work. In the quiet hours, an uncomfortable realization starts to surface. The $600 was never really where this began. The real starting point was the moment you decided staying unseen mattered more than being recognized, that being underestimated cut sharper than any resume ever could, that the world tends to reward the people it never sees coming. A month 31, an offer comes in for the entire structure. Not a single asset this time, the whole thing, structured across cash and earnouts from a private equity group that spent 4 months trying to figure out who's actually behind everything they're buying. Your lawyer fields every call. Your name never enters the conversation. You sit in the same apartment you nearly walked away from 2 years earlier, staring at a number that used to feel completely made up, and triumph isn't what you feel. It's something closer to grief, for every dinner spent pretending to be smaller than you actually were, for every relationship that quietly withered under the weight of secrecy while the empire thrived on it instead. You sign anyway. Somewhere out there, money changes hands that will never be traced back to your name in any article, any interview, any public record anyone would ever casually stumble across. You built something worth more than most people will earn across 3 lifetimes combined, and to everyone who's ever known you, you're still just the quiet one who does something with computers. You sit there afterward in the dark, phone still in your hand, staring at a number that doesn't feel real yet. And one question weighs heavier than all of it put together. If you could build an empire the entire world never saw coming, was staying invisible the real reward? Or was it the loneliest price you'll ever pay for power?